There is no knowledge that is not power. You have been chosen to represent Earth in Mortal Kombat. Be warned, although your souls are protected against Shao Kahn's evil, your lives are not. I cannot interfere any longer as your Earth is now ruled by the Outworld gods. These are the words of Raiden. For centuries, Earth has used Mortal Kombat to defend itself against the Outworld's Emperor, Shao Kahn. But Kahn becomes frustrated by failed attempts at taking Earth through tournament battle. He enacts a plan which began 10,000 years ago. During this time, Kahn had a queen. Her name was Sindel, and her young death was unexpected. Kahn's shadow priests, led by Shang Tsung, made it so Sindel's spirit would someday be reborn, not on the Outworld but on the Earth realm itself. Kitana is accused of treason by the high courts of the Outworld after murdering her evil twin Melina. Shao Kahn appoints a group of warriors specifically to catch his daughter and bring her back alive. But Kitana must find a way to reach the newly crowned Queen Sindel first and warn her of their true past. Kitana bravely attempts to reach her mother's sensibilities by facing her one-on-one. The truth she's trying to reveal is that Shao Kahn usurped the throne of Outworld by eliminating King Jared, Sindel's royal consort and Kitana's father. If Sindel won't listen to reason, she'll have to submit to Kitana until she does. Ayo Kitana, how are you going to reveal the truth when you gibbed your mother? I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all. I am not proficient at most fighting games. I wasn't going to practice for hours mastering this game, so I am going to enable double damage to get through this quicker and more credits to give myself a chance. I guarantee I'm still going to lose plenty. Don't hate, I'm going to cheese my way through the game with Sub-Zero. And I'm only going to do the Novice Tower. That's my ultimate destiny. Ah, Scorpion, my old friend. Now, Ultimate 3 is a story all about how Scorpion's life got turned upside down, and he'd take a minute just yell, "Come here!" He'll tell you how he became the prince of a realm called Hell there. In Japan Earth Realm, born and raised, in the Shirai Ryu clan was where he spent most of his days, chilling out, maxing, relaxing all cool, and all throwing some kunai outside of the school, when a bastard necromancer, who was up to no good, started making trouble in his neighborhood. He got in one little fight and he died with his clan. He said, "I'm going to kill Sub-Zero and get revenge for my wife and my son heir." Something like that. Nightwolf is a shaman from the fictional Matoka tribe. He harnesses the power of green energy. Your guess is as good as mine. Nightwolf was originally designed as part of a Create a Character contest hosted by Midway Games after the release of Mortal Kombat 2. He was chosen alongside Stryker and Cabal to be featured in the third installment. I do like it when the creators give the fans a chance to make history in their franchises like that. I did not memorize any combos or fatalities, so you're not going to see a single one from me. Sorry. Jade is a palette swap, but she is unique to Katana in that she seems to have the better moveset, particularly in this game. Jade is a childhood friend and fellow assassin of Katana, usually acting as her personal guard. When Katana is put on trial for the homicide of her fake sister Melina, Shao Kahn, being emperor, thought he could have Jade track her down. But the bond between Katana and Jade is strong, because she double-crosses the evil emperor and accompanies the princess when she finds her. Funny that the coldest warriors are fighting in a desert. Even funnier that we just beat Jade before arriving at her stage. The funniest thing is that Cyrax is just stuck there in the sand. Like, what kind of magic is keeping them there? Are they not going to try to dig themselves out? It is a reference to their MK3 ending, but what a lame ending. You win, but get trapped in sand and wander aimlessly afterwards? We'll call it the Moses ending. Shao Kahn is not that far in the distance, if the steps are right there. They made him a manlet. That's a body double Kahn if I ever saw one. It's not mentioned up to this point in the series why human warriors are needed to be transformed with cybernetics by the Lin Kuei clan, other than to make them loyal against their will. They would have been better off keeping the warrior as is and making a robot to assist on their missions, rather than maiming them and stealing their humanity. Because there could not be anything human left if you can explode and scatter your body parts to catch your enemy off guard. Hey, we've made it to the endurance match. Let's see who our competitors are. We got Bihan Sub-Zero versus our Kuai Liang Sub-Zero. I swear my controller is a little finicky. I did not mean to freeze him. Instead, I was trying to uppercut. I have to let the buttons rest completely before input, or else it gets stuck. These are 30-year-old controllers, along with the system. Durable, but sticky, and I'm not going to risk opening them up. The alternate fighter is Smoke in his human form. Lin Kuei will forcibly transform him into a cyborg. Now, we've climbed our way to the sub-boss Motaro. This guy is a cheap bastard. His species is Centaurian. If it weren't enough just to hit harder, he can leap across the map, has a reach advantage to grab you when you think you're just out of his arm span. He is unaffected by ranged attacks, and he can teleport at will. This dude sucks rotten eggs. Oh, and he can shoot multiple energy bolts while you're midair, so you can't defend. My hope switching to Jade is that she has a slightly smaller hitbox and her kicks land better than Sub-Zero's. Like previous sub-bosses Goro and Kintaro, Motaro was inserted in the game by filming clay models with the power of stop motion. Now, don't get me wrong, I like stop motion. I grew up loving Wallace and Gromit, Chicken Run, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Coraline, Gumby, and many more. But in Mortal Kombat, I cannot imagine a greater mismatch. I understand it would have been nearly impossible for them to costume up an actor to make a convincing dragon, tiger, or centaurian warrior, but Motaro looks more fit to star in Clay Fighter than alongside Earthrealm's mightiest warriors. On the other hand, the actors brought their characters to life through the process of digitization, which meant they filmed in front of a blue or green screen, performing each movement, and graphics were included later. There is a secret minigame called Galaxian that you can access in the secret menu. It starts fast, in which you will often lose your first life quickly, and ends when you lose the few lives you have. You don't get to continue as often as you want within the minigame. Instead, you have to access the secret menu each time the game over occurs, which hinders the desire to return to it. No way. I'm all for fair, but that is just cheating. I was clearly out of his reach, but I'm just pulled through the air into his grasp. Either that's bad coding or intentional shenanigans. Either way, unacceptable. Seriously? Again? I don't know if I just wasn't noticing before, but I am just being placed in his grab attack. How do you account for that as the player? Oh, let me just predict when the computer will cheat. So stupid. And again, this is why ports from the arcade suck. They think you'll just put up with whatever they ship out because you already spent a fortune sinking quarters. That's not a fair challenge. You are just making the game artificially difficult. I did look up recordings of people fighting Motaro on arcade cabinets, and they are all well within his reach when they are grabbed, so this must be a port issue. Nothing worth investigating further to make sure that's the case, but it will definitely affect the final score. Be honest, viewers, would you look past broken mechanics like this and still give this port a high score? Keep in mind, if you were to play this vanilla, you only get 5 credits. So you only get so many tries to avoid Motaro ending your run because you couldn't avoid a grab you shouldn't even be in. This is nothing for experts, I'm sure, but if you were casually playing Ultimate MK3, would you want to play over and over again to learn hacked patterns just to have to be told, tough luck, try again? I don't mind a challenge if all the rules are followed. The games allow you to input codes to have more credits because, let's face it, if you were in the arcade, you could put in as many quarters as you need to win. The code allows you to increase damage output for both players, but it doesn't allow you to reach into empty space all of a sudden and grab your opponents. It is what it is. The later games are fine because they were built with the console in mind and were fun to play. But the only way to really play the original games is with a dedicated arcade cabinet. These ports are cheesy and a cash grab. Even the port for the first Mortal Kombat didn't include proper fatalities, and removed blood. These games for the Super Nintendo do not hold a light to the legacy of the arcade. Let's be honest. The intensity of the original games were experienced when you could only play as long as you had quarters to spare, and an equal or better opponent to battle. The later games benefited from online verses, because then you could challenge endlessly against your ranking. Finally, Shao Kahn. He's a weird Shakespearean villain. Seriously, he is Claudius from Hamlet. He kills the former king, tricks the former queen into being their consort, and really wants Kitana's approval, or rather, to use her as an end to the means of him ruling over all realms. Since he couldn't control her the way he wanted, he made a clone, Melina, and tried to convince everyone she was a true daughter, knowing he'd use her to get rid of Kitana someday. In the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, Frank Welker provided the voices for Reptile and Shao Kahn. As a refresher, Frank Welker has voiced Fred Jones in the Scooby-Doo cartoons, Scooby-Doo for movie projects such as 2020's Scoob, Nibbler from Futurama, Curious George, Megatron and Soundwave in various Transformers projects, going all the way back to the Transformers the movie from 1986, Abu and the Cave of Wonders from Disney's Aladdin. The dude has hundreds of voice credits. He's likely been a part of your childhood in one way or another. I'll give it to Shao. He is as iconic as video game villains get. The fact that he'll taunt you throughout the fight and smash your head with a giant hammer is top tier evil aura. He is a fun and worthy opponent. He's like King Dedede. I don't care about any of the previous fights, because they were programmed to combo you to oblivion, but Shao Kahn actually makes you feel cathartic about his defeat. My controller fails me again. I definitely try to uppercut him, but instead I'm stuck with Ice Shower. In fact, I would almost never use Ice Shower because the opponent never stands still long enough. It's basically a useless move. Eat feet, Shao Kahn. It was ice to know you. Why did the Skull Temple have to go too? It really brought the city skyline together. Sub-Zero wins. Shao Kahn is no more. I am the ultimate MK3 champion. It's me! It's me! In vicious battle, Sub-Zero faces Cyrax and Sector, but not alone. He finds his third Lin Kuei assassin, the elusive Smoke. Before Automation, Smoke and Sub-Zero were allies. Sub-Zero helps Smoke recall his past and gains him as an ally once again. Sub-Zero defeats his cyborg assassins with the help of Smoke and finds it takes all his own inner strengths to defeat Khan and his outworld minions. The former ninja once again disappears into the shadows, his legacy known only by a select few. I wonder where else the live-action actors have appeared since UMK3. Richard DeVizio has also been in the movies TMNT 2, The Secret of Ooze, and The Dark Knight as henchman extras. Carrie Hoskins has played Sonya Blade for a couple of games, sells her own art, posed for Playboy, and she seems to be an excellent mother. John Parrish is a professional bodybuilder and entrepreneur. Tony Marquez has his own band, Kung Lao and the Scorpions. Michael O'Brien mostly played extras in weird comedies, but now he sells real estate. John Turk also played a Chechen bodyguard in The Dark Knight like Richard DeVizio, and got to be in a couple of episodes of big-name shows like Prison Break and Chicago PD. Leah Montalongo is a podcast host, fitness teacher, and won Mrs. Illinois Petit 2025. Eddie Wong got to do stunts in Big Trouble in Little China, American History X, and The Italian Job. Sal DeVita is a video game designer, artist, and mocap actor. Becky Gable started her own modeling agency. John Turk was busy in this game. Brian Glynn also modeled for a Mortal Kombat clone called War Gods, and owns a fitness supplement business. Apparently he and Sindel actress Leah Montalongo dated in real life for a short time. So Shao Kahn really did love Sindel for a little bit. How romantic. Dan Forden said in an interview he came up with "Toasty" as a taunt when he played Super High Impact, a football game by Midway. Mike Vinacore also playtested the War Gods game Brian Glynn modeled for, and did game design for Tony Hawk Ride. Jim Henn designed the Temple of Maggie and Itchy and Scratchy stages for the Simpsons Bart's Nightmare game, and did design and programming for Rugrats in Paris, the movie, the game, and in 2023, programming for the Windows version of Hogwarts Legacy. Derek Newman also did art for Off-Road Challenge, Rugrats in Paris, the movie, the game, and Prince of Persia 3D. Bill Van Overbeck is the voice of the referee in NCAA College Football 2K3. Michael Rubinelli was Vice President of Product Development for THQ Incorporated for SpongeBob SquarePants, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, and was President of Ignition Entertainment Limited USA for the development of Deadly Premonition. Debbie Austin provided creative services for Unreal Championship 2 and The Suffering. Peter Ward was the Super Duper Deluxe programming wizard for Mortal Kombat 3, programmed the Super Star Wars games for the SNES I'll be playing later, and even created and designed his own games, Black Magic and Mainframe. The latter sounds like System Shock, but preceded it by 6 years. Jim Flaherty was vice president and executive in charge of production for Predator, Concrete Jungle, and Crash Twinsanity. Game over? I get that this was an arcade game, and they wanted you to leave so someone else could take a turn, but come on. The end scene is already different, so they could have at least put a different message. Even just one more "you win" would have been nice. I already know the tower's over. I just beat the boss. Okay. I'll try again without the double damage. I like how they bothered to make 2 different master towers. It literally doesn't affect the ending. It just seems odd to add all these different tower lengths, but no incentive. Women definitely would not be impressed with anyone able to endure another minute and a half. Melina? They start the game by saying that Kitana murked her, and I'm starting the tower with her? I appreciate that they didn't pull any characters, but it kind of blows the whole narrative out the water. What little story they give with the port doesn't mention her being revived, which, by the way, she was. So if you only got to play the Super Nintendo version, you'd be clueless. And if I even bothered to win the tower with Melina, her ending is non-canon. Whatever. It's kind of lame that the first 4 Mortal Kombats only have Liu Kang as the canonical winner. There's all these fighters, and he's the golden child. This stage is known as the Lost Bridge, or Sislak Busorez, which is a simple anagram for Classic Sub-Zero. Ermac, a mystery wrapped in a mystery. He makes his official debut in this game, but rumors of his character began earlier in the first Mortal Kombat. Unbeknownst to Ed Boon, a simple line of code would drive the arcade scene crazy, trying to find a hidden character that never existed, or ever intended to exist. In programming, a macro instruction is a rule that specifies how a certain input should be mapped to a replacement output. Boon primarily used it to log coding errors, with it displaying error macro in a truncated Ermac message. When Boon added Reptile as a hidden character, he placed the macro display after the code for Reptile appearances and battles, making it seem as though there would be another hidden warrior. If Reptile was definitely a hidden character that could be unlocked, then gamers believed that Ermac was the next prize. But nothing was found. Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine, as desperate as anyone else, ran a fake story of an edited image of Scorpion with a red tint, and lied to readers that this was really Ermac. The dev team had a sense of humor and ran with the rumor, displaying secret messages in MK2 until Ultimate 3, where they really did make him a red palette swap with Scorpion, making him one of Shao Kahn's experiments, a body filled with thousands of souls, including King Jared. Again, including Bihan Sub-Zero kind of muddles the story, because by this point, he's been dead and resurrected as Noob Saibot. But sure, we'll let it slide for the cool factor of him being a playable character. Mortal Kombat is just a story of betrayal. Scorpion was tricked by Quan Chi into thinking Bihan wiped out him and his whole clan. Scorpion then roasts Bihan, Quan Chi corrupts his body and soul as he did Scorpion, and releases him to attack Kuai Liang, the second Sub-Zero, and Bihan's brother. Earthrealm is cooked. Shao Kahn played the long game to eliminate us from within. Mortal Kombat has its fair share of live-action projects, ranging from the movies, live martial arts tour, TV and web series. However, the project that blended the games and live performers the most was a short-lived series called Federation of Martial Arts. It was a game in the sense that people could bet on the fighters with fake currency in hopes of winning the most to get prize merchandise. Of course, it was incredibly low budget, but for lack of other words, it is quite epic. I definitely was not aware of this in the year 2000, so I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. If, for nothing else, there's an episode where the Federation holds an O.J. Simpson-esque trial against Jax, which was strange, but meme-worthy, because it includes a whole if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit moment. This stage is known as Jade's Desert. No further information expounded. In the movie Mortal Kombat Annihilation, Jade gives Liu Kang an awkward test, in which he must deny her advances and dodge her attacks in the desert. In MK9, Sindel was buried underneath the sands and was lifted and revived by Quan Chi. Do you think Shao Kahn just sits there, and when someone uppercuts a fighter through his floor, he's like, "Yo, I was just sitting here. This is what I was waiting for the whole time," and gets a free show? Little does he know, he's seeing exactly what I'm going to do to him later. I was going to say there was a brief intermission to patch the floor, but I guess the rubble effect was the only indication we burst through. There was never any hole. Poor attention to detail, I guess. You like what you saw, Shao? You're going to take a kick to the head, too. Kitana and Melina were stated by Ed Boon to be the female counterparts to Scorpion and Sub-Zero. I don't know if that's brilliant or just lazy, considering initially both sets were just palette swaps. Seriously, between Mortal Kombat 2 and 3, half of each roster were only palette swaps of other characters. We really accepted different poses and colors, albeit different moves, as game-changing. Kitana is the princess of Edenia, and despite being 10,000 years old, she is fooled over and over again by her enemies as if she were a child. Shao Kahn gaslit her into being his stepdaughter, and in a later game, Sindel betrays her for allying with Earthrealm. Her last kiss fatality is based on how James Bond blew up Mr. Big in Live and Let Die, and her animality transforms her into a rabbit who leaps and eviscerates her opponents, like the rabbit in the Monty Python and the Holy Grail movie. Ed Boon was really thinking about movies when creating her moves. Get out of here, Kitana. And here's the mirror match. Even just a note saying mirrored opponents are clones too would make for interesting lore. Because how do you think the fighters would feel if they just randomly had to fight themselves? Well, I didn't even stand a chance. Curtis Stryker is probably the strangest and most interesting character. He's just a regular cop. Most of the regular humans in the game have fancy gadgets, specialized training, or magical abilities. Stryker proudly stands by the power of police brutality. Sonya Blade has been around since the first game, so you can argue she has experience fighting these kinds of enemies. But it just seems out of place having Stryker being able to go toe-to-toe Shao Kahn at the end. I can also admit it's charming. It's like if we had a normal citizen participating at the Olympics without training for the event they're in, and seeing if they can take home the gold medal. I respect him shooting his shot, but the Blicky is no match for ice magic. I understand the towers are randomized, but I do wish I could have fought other combatants. How many times do I have to fight Bihan? And another mirror match. Almost 2/3 of my fights will be someone I've already fought, because I have to face Motaro and Shao Kahn. I did end up learning some fatalities after my tower runs, but without the use of options from the secret menu, the time to actually perform them is ridiculous. So I'll just show them here. You get what you get. Did you know that Tommy Wiseau is a fan of Mortal Kombat? On the debut episode of his web series, The Tommy Wiseau Show, he plays MK9 and gave some of the most unhinged commentary I've ever heard. But damn it if it didn't make me laugh.
That's a good one.
Yeah, screw you, Motaro. Who were your favorite, or who were the most surprising add-on characters from an outside IP, like Conan the Barbarian, Homelander, Omni-Man from Invincible, Spawn, John Rambo, Alien and Predator, Leatherface, Jason Voorhees? Personally, I think RoboCop has to be the most hilarious inclusion. I've never got to play as him, but I definitely would try a few rounds with the old Chrome Dome. Omni-Man had to be the most meme-worthy as an add-on, with his thick squat. It's still too funny to see clips of people trying to attack him, only to miss in such a zesty way. The plot for Ultimate MK3 is paper thin. I never gave it too much thought until now. The whole point is that if Shao Kahn wanted to conquer Earthrealm, he'd have to win the Mortal Kombat tournament not once, but 10 times. But for some reason, the writers felt that was lame now. Let's break the rules. So how do you break the one rule that was established? Make up the most ridiculous loophole. So Shao Kahn figures that because Sindel is Edenian, with Edenia being part of Outworld, she is property of Outworld. If Sindel is dead, and then resurrected in Earthrealm, then she is an Outworld anchor in Earthrealm, extending the boundary of Outworld into Earthrealm. People, let's dissect that. Let's imagine you were a child. Maybe you used to play football, baseball, or played with a frisbee. Sometimes you couldn't control your aim, or had a strong throw, and your equipment went flying into a grouchy neighbor's yard behind a fence. You had to ask permission to retrieve or have your equipment returned because you do not own your grouchy neighbor's yard. If you were too afraid, or the neighbor was too grouchy, you were SOL. It became their property because it was irretrievable. Technically, the equipment is still your property, but it's out of your reach. You can't just stomp wherever you want. That's called trespassing. So let's stop there. Is Sindel property of Outworld if she is no longer there? Or is she property to Earthrealm because that was where she was stuck? After all, a country could theoretically go to war over misallocated property. But Shao Kahn is bound by Elder God rules. He's not allowed to cross into Earthrealm and claim ownership for no reason, unless he wins 10 tournaments. In Earthrealm, an empirical nation could negotiate for the return of their property or wage war, but they aren't bound by cosmic law within their realm. On top of that, if the Elder Gods set up the combat tournament rule in the first place to establish fairness, I find it hard to believe some schlub can argue with them on a technicality, or that the Elder Gods wouldn't set up multiple rules to prevent such trivialities. It's not like you would have to declare with words you are conquering or merging the realms. The act of doing it is what is prevented, and that's exactly what Shao Kahn is doing, however you slice it, by claiming Earthrealm only because one person is there, royalty or not. Like, imagine if the Queen of Denmark was stuck in Canada because she accidentally died, and through medical intervention was resuscitated. Denmark can't claim Canada as their property to invade and retrieve her while she's recovering, and much less if you brainwashed the Queen into believing that she could do that. That would be deemed insanity. It's so dumb. I'm not even asking for grade A logic in a story, but if it isn't even remotely believable when given a moment to think, then don't make it the crux of the story. It would have been better to say that if Sindel was resurrected because she died in Earthrealm, that she were just trying to eliminate the warriors of Earthrealm, so that there were no one strong enough to defend future tournaments, and make her the main boss. It was already lazy to reuse Shao Kahn, and that would have raised the stakes for heroes like Kitana and Jade, because then they would have to grapple with the fact that they are facing the former and true queen of Edenia, not an emperor that they don't have to debate about betraying. You could still use Mutaro and argue that he was sent as an envoy to retrieve the queen, and then if he murdered other heroes and citizens, then he was acting out of jurisdiction to do his job by any means possible. You can say I'm arguing this in hindsight, but the creators had all the power to make a convincing and powerful story. Instead, they went with the logic of a sneering child. I feel Mortal Kombat is a tough franchise to be invested in. Don't get me wrong, some of the character designs are iconic, but the stakes that are presented for the story are wibbly-wobbly at best. Yes, it's epic to have to save Earthrealm and Edenia, but we don't really see what we're fighting for. Nearly everyone from Earthrealm and Outworld are violent without diplomacy, driven by vengeance, self-aggrandizing, opportunistic, blindly loyal to a person or group without considering the consequences, and/or betray what little morals they had to begin with. When neither side seems to be better than the other, then you're left with people just fighting because they are told to, which weakens the necessity to have a story at all, which sadly makes me believe that if the original arcade games were presented the same way, the same gore and violence, that you could have just said these fighters don't know what they are doing here, but they know they must fight, and you still would have had the same fun. Some of the ideas were interesting, but at this point, they've had to retcon and add timelines to fix holes that they didn't consider until the next game was made. Again, this is all in the context that this is a fighting game, so some people would say, who cares? We paid to dog on our friends. But I feel that's exactly the issue. You wouldn't play the same game over and over through the years if the theme or story didn't evolve with you as the player. Mortal Kombat at times can feel stagnant. You could argue against me and say, shut up. Mortal Kombat earned millions with just the arcade versions, and people buy every console game that comes, and I agree. It's earned its fan base. As someone from the outside, I feel that you as the fan, and me as the casual, should see better from the story at this point. It has all the parts it needs. It just lacks focus. I don't believe anyone would say Mortal Kombat as a whole had the best story in video game history. This is all to say I'm speaking to fill time, and genuinely from the gamer heart. But I have to wonder if Mortal Kombat is more hit or more miss. I like MK, but I don't think I can say I love it. I do respect it enough to believe that it has potential to be the best it can be. We just haven't seen it yet. I don't think it's the greatest offender of innovation, but it's not a series I particularly feel drawn to buying into at the moment. I feel like MK9 was important for the series and the games that came after. They finally got to at least right wrongs, and make the lore more cohesive. But if we are looking at the lens of this game, and everything prior in history, I feel it's fair to say beyond the fun factor, just about everything else about Mortal Kombat up to this point is weak. And again, we're mostly considering the disappointment that this port is compared to even the superiority of the arcade cabinet. I'll say it has a bit more nuance beyond the better graphics and music. Mortal Kombat has been the subject of many crossovers and references, such as Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe, Mortal Kombat and Bruce Lee comics, MK characters in NBA Jam, Ed Boon and Goro in an episode of Code Monkeys, Scorpion grabbing Daffy Duck, skins in Fortnite, and accessories in Rocket League. At this point, I'm going to lose a bunch until I either win or run out of credits. In the meantime, enjoy footage of me winning matches in Rocket League. I know I didn't record the music in-game well enough, so right here I'll insert the soundtrack for your listening pleasure as I continue to lose. Wait, what? The game is giving me more to the story now after I beat the boss? I don't care anymore. It should have been placed at the beginning. It's too late to interest me about any of this. This is literally establishing information. Why is it all the way over here? I don't really buy the whole army part. At worst, there's a dozen, and some of them eventually fight with the heroes. Enable Motaro? Okay, I'm interested. Let's give him a shot. Where's Motaro? Whatever. I'm over it. I wanna be the best there ever was, to beat all the rest, yeah, that's my cause. Rain, Reptile, Striker, Jax, Nightwolf, Jade, Noob Saibot, Kung Lao, Sub-Zero, Classic Sub-Zero, Melina, Kano. Fight 'em, gotta fight 'em all. Mortal Kombat. Woo! We're at the halfway point. Doing great so far. Sonya Blade, Sector, Kitana, Ermac, Scorpion, Cyrax, Shang Tsung, Liu Kang, Smoke, Sindel, Cabal. That's all, folks. At least 73 or more to see. To be a Mortal Kombat master is my destiny. It's downhill from here. This game only included 23. Fight 'em, gotta fight 'em all. Mortal Kombat! Thanks for watching. Test your might by liking and subscribing, and telling me in the comments what have been your favorite MK games. Is there anything you'd like to see in future installments? Until next time. It's ranking time! Story 0.25 out of 2. In Mortal Kombat, save Earthrealm from an unknown evil that attempts to invade through an ancient, ritualistic tournament. MK2, save Earthrealm from the now revealed evil by taking the fight to Outworld that started the issues in the first place. Okay, I'm feeling an epic build-up from the first 2 games. MK3? The work you've accomplished thus far means nothing, because you never killed the bad guy in the last game. He's been reading up on cosmic law, and tricked everyone by finding a loophole letting him control every realm with a technicality. Yeah, not really fun or interesting. I find the unanimated endings for each fighter to be a snooze fest to read, and since there is one canonical ending, none of the reading matters. To add insult to injury, Liu Kang's canon ending is arguably one of the most boring to read. Visuals 0.75 out of 2. I like almost all of the character designs. I don't have much to complain in that regard. It's the stage design for the port. For the few stages I get to see, they are all static images. The only thing I notice that moves in the background is Cyrax flailing in the sand. Sizlek Bucera's had to be the worst offender. It's practically a blank screen with a bridge. Half the battle was trying not to be too bored with nothing worth looking at. Gameplay 0.25 out of 2. I think a majority of people are aware of the concept of game theory. If you're not, you can read it to the complexity you desire, but it could be boiled down to game theory being the math behind strategy to assist in determining what would result in a favorable or less than favorable outcome. So that's why I didn't bother to play Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 in an entertaining way. If all it takes to win a match is to freeze my enemy and do an uppercut, and sometimes dodge and jump kick, then why fiddle with needlessly complex combos? I did one test match for my recording setup, and when you can miss your opponent's head with a punch, or their legs with a low kick by what seems like mere micrometers, like you felt you were standing right next to them, and you whiff, then forget that. I don't want to deal with that frustration. Shout out to Modern Vintage Gamer, because he confirmed what I was suspecting the whole time. No matter the difficulty you select, the game is programmed to increase the computer opponent's input reading based on your wins and losses. The more you win, the more it will counter your moves at speeds not humanly possible. And the more you lose, the dumber the opponent will act. I am fine with a game trying to be more challenging, but the way the computer is programmed makes it so that they can explicitly avoid your hits, and launch combos in quantities that a normal player would usually never get to pull off. Does it automatically make it a bad game? No, but it cheapens the experience you have when you attempt the tower mode. Sound 0.5 out of 2. I know I didn't exactly record in all its glory the sound this time around, but that was kind of on purpose. The music is okay. I did provide a section for you just to hear that, because it was decent enough to get my head bobbing a bit, but it's nothing I'm going to remember in the future. I just couldn't stand the sound effects. I put the volume down because if anyone were to walk past and hear the character scream in agony or listen to the tinny generic ability sounds, I think I would stop playing out of embarrassment. Motaro is the worst offender. If you are even unlucky enough to play this game, and specifically fight the ugly Centaurian, it is by far one of the worst listening experiences I've had playing a video game. He is constantly grunting and teleporting, cutting in and out in the worst ways. It is a chaotic audio mess. Fun factor: 0.25 out of 2. I'm kind of being lenient here by using my imagination. I can imagine if I ever wanted to learn to play like a pro, it could be rewarding to master combos and fatalities. But that's where the fun ends. In reality, pulling off a combo compared to sporadic abilities and hits really were no different in intensity of fun. I had to increase time with the cheat menu to even input a fatality, because without it, you get literally 2 or 3 seconds to pull off a fatality. Who thought that was a good idea? I'm not saying you have to give me even 30 seconds, but it is so completely unfun and inconsiderate if you felt you did an okay job in a fight that you don't even get the satisfaction of getting to do a fatality. You have to input it perfectly. You don't get a second chance, which again was already difficult enough with such an old controller. The hidden minigame Galaxian was a boring choice. And the base game doesn't include anything to break up the monotony of fighting like test your might challenges, so there's really nothing else to do in this game than fight. Which, yes, sounds like a weird complaint for a fighting game, but the combat was generally just bland, so yes, I wish there was more to do in a fighting game than just fight. I played the tower on the novice and master difficulty, and the change didn't feel any different, so honestly, why bother? Again, you only get 5 credits in the base game, so good luck having fun redoing multiple runs until you can get it done by that limitation, because that's a real challenge, making it real fun. In total, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 for the Super Nintendo gets a 2 out of 10.